Hello and welcome to English at Fingertips. In this video, I am going to discuss the famous poem Daffodils written by the famous romantic writer William Wordsworth. This poem is also known by the first line of the poem, which is I wandered lonely as a cloud. So without any further delay, let us start with the line by line discussion of the poem Daffodils. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, when at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. In the very first line of the poem, the poet uses simile to a great effect as he compares himself to a cloud. He says that he was all alone and was roaming aimlessly, just like a cloud that floats on high over valleys and hills. Here, the word vales refers to valleys. When all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. As he was wandering around, he came across a place that was full of golden daffodils. The words crowd and host mean a large number of people or things. So the poet uses the words crowd and host to show us that there were a large number of daffodils. Now for those who do not know, we are talking about daffodils, but what exactly is this daffodil? Daffodil is a type of European plant which bears bright yellow flowers. The poet calls daffodils golden rather than yellow in order to express their majesty and beauty. Beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. So the poet sees the daffodils beside the lake and underneath the larger trees. The daffodils were swaying to and fro due to the effect of the breeze. Here, by the term fluttering, the poet tries to mean that the flowers were moving. And this movement made them look as if they were dancing happily. So here the poet again personifies the daffodils by showing them as flapping and dancing. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. Now in the second stanza of the poem, the poet once again uses simile as he compares the host of daffodils to the numerous stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. Milky Way is the galaxy that contains our solar system. As you can see in the picture, there are clusters of stars in the Milky Way that shine and twinkle. Just like these stars, there were lots and lots of daffodils that moved to and fro due to the effect of the breeze. The movement of the daffodils due to the breeze made them look as if they were twinkling. So these moving daffodils seemed to stretch in an endless line along the margin of a bay. The word bay used here refers to a lake. So the daffodils were moving to and fro and looking like the stars in the Milky Way, and they were situated beside a lake. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. Here the word glance refers to a brief or hurried look, while sprightly means lively or full of energy. So the poet says that he saw 10,000 of daffodils, and the daffodils were moving their heads due to the effect of the breeze, thereby giving the poet the impression that the daffodils were dancing lively. In this case, the poet personifies the daffodils as he gives the flowers human-like traits. We all know that flowers cannot dance like humans. The poet also uses hyperbole as he says that he saw 10,000 daffodils. For those who do not know, hyperbole refers to exaggerated statements or claims. Maybe there were many daffodils, but there were not 10,000 daffodils. 10,000 is just too much. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. The poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the shore to me had brought. Just like the daffodils, the waves in the lake also swayed to and fro. But the beauty of the daffodil was far more enchanting than that of the waves. The poet could not take his eyes off the golden daffodils. In this stanza, the poet compares the waves of the lake to the waves of daffodils. The line here means that there were waves too which seemed to be dancing in the lake, but the joyful dance of daffodils was far better than the dance of the waves. Look at the word gay and jocund. Both of them refer to being cheerful and light-hearted. The poet says that being a poet, it was impossible for him to be anything but happy in such a cheerful company of the beautiful yellow daffodils. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. The magnificent sight of the daffodil instantly made the poet happy. For that matter, a sight like that would make anyone happy who appreciates the nature, and Wordsworth, being a romantic poet, loved and worshipped nature. He kept on looking, but the poet was unable to understand the impact that the sight of the daffodils would have on him in future. So at that point, he did not know the importance of that moment while he was seeing the daffodils. For often, when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills, and dances with the daffodils. So in the last stanza of the poem, the poet describes the importance of that sight of the daffodils in his future life. After that experience, when he sits idle in a thoughtful mood, here pensive means thoughtful. So during that moment, the sight of these daffodils flashes upon his inner eye. So look at the word inner eye. What do you mean by inner eye? Now we all know that when we open our eye, we can see the world, we can see our surroundings. But there is also a sight that we get while we close the eyes and dream, while we recollect our past memories. So with the outer eye, we can see the objects that are in real. But with the inner eyes, we can see our dreams, our thoughts. So that is why the poet uses the word inward eye. While he sits idle, he relieves the beautiful sight of the daffodils in his imagination, and he calls it as the blessing of being lonely. When we are surrounded by people, we generally do not get the time to imagine things. But when we are alone, we get the opportunity to remember the fond memories that we have. That is why the poet calls the sight of the daffodils as the bliss of solitude. Here, bliss means blessing, and solitude means being lonely. For the poet, the sight of the daffodils is one such memory that he will go on to cherish for the rest of his life. So in the last stanza of the poem, the poet says that whenever he sits idle or has nothing to do, he sees the daffodils in his imagination, and the sight of the daffodils fills his heart with pleasure, and he cannot help but dance with the daffodils. In this poem, we see the impact of even the smallest object of our nature, how a daffodil can fill the heart of the poet with so much joy. This is nothing but Wordsworth's love for nature, which is shown in the poem in its true colors. I hope that you have understood the poem. That's it for today. See you in the next video.